Sorry. So good afternoon, everyone, or good morning, depending in which time zone you are in. Thank you so much for participating in this new online session of Plena International. For those of you who don't know us, Plena International is a project by Plena Inclusión, which we do in collaboration with Inclusion International. Here, we try to promote the participation of people with disabilities from all over the world. It is a place to share experiences and learn about new topics or issues. Please remember that we have interpretation into English, Portuguese, French, and Spanish. For the interpretation, you can click on an icon of the world icon at the bottom of your screen, and there you can choose the language in which you want to listen the session into. In this session, we're going to speak about climate change. Maybe it seems like something that has no value or that it doesn't affect us. Or maybe we don't know much about it because we have never worked on it before or heard about it. But today we're going to analyze why it is important to learn about climate change and why it is important to work on it. First of all, does anybody have an idea of what climate change is?
Y es otro de los compromisos que están dentro
Well,
del
it is one of the
de los
commitments that
objetivos
are
de desarrollo sostenible.
under the objectives of sustainable development. Yes. So, Monica, we can continue if you feel like. Okay, should we go ahead and think about the questions we sent you all?
Nada.
Mónica,
¿Estás en el principio del
you're
documento?
at the beginning of the document? Yes, I
Vale,
am.
entonces,
Okay,
¿recuerdas que al principio?
remember that at the beginning,
Vale. Entonces, cuando hablamos de qué es el cambio
when
climático,
we speak about
está con
climate
nosotros Samuela de
change,
Ruanda, que nos va a contar
we
sobre el
say
cambio
that
climático.
Samuela from Rwanda is here. Oh, yes, yes, sorry. Okay, okay. Yes, of course. Sorry.
No te preocupes, pues si quieres le damos paso a
No
Samuela para que
worries.
nos haga una introducción sobre qué es el cambio climático. ¿Te
I
parece?
maybe Samuela can do an introduction on climate change. Yes, today we have Samuela from Rwanda. She's going to tell us about climate change. Samuela, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, depending on your time zones. I'm Samara Princess Wiznema from Rwanda, coming from Disability Inclusion Rwanda, as you can see behind me. I'm a self-advocate and Chief Officer of Self-Advocate in Disability Inclusion Rwanda. Today, I'm going to talk about climatic changes towards people with disabilities. My support person can help me. I'm going to share the document to you. As you can see, I'm Disability Inclusion Rwanda. We're going to talk about climate change towards persons with disabilities. Working toward climatic changes, you can see some icons here. On your left side, the big icon is frosty and cloudy, foggy, with bushes and a tree there, which represent how people with disability are affected by climatic changes. And on the fourth icon, the small fourth icon there is fire, drought, and cyclones there, which is a real representation about the meaning of climatic change. What is climate? Let's first talk about what is climate. Climate is the average weather conditions for a specific location over a long period of time, usually or decades, yearly or decades. Climate change This is the gradual change in weather conditions, like gradual increase in temperature, floods, or cyclones, as the icon represented before, or simply shifts in temperature and weather patterns. Such changes can be natural or change in sun's activities or volcanic eruptions. We are going to talk about first what causes of climatic changes. As you can see on my representation, the first tip is using transportations. As you can understand, transportation comes from transport. Like, what do we use during transport? Vehicles like cars, trains, motorcycles, which use fuels. These fuels, they transmit or release toxic gases in the atmosphere, which damages ozone layer, which is the protective part of the sun's toxic rays, which later lead to climatic changes. Generating power. Different powers that we use, either cooking in industries or in power stations. We use coal or charcoal or oil, which later lead to climatic changes because this energy, as we burn them in order to produce other energies, release toxic gases and other toxic fumes, which later damage the ozone layer, later leading to climatic changes. Manufacturing goods. As we all know, where goods are manufactured, this is in industries. These industries use power or some energies to produce these manufactured goods, which this power, which these goods, which these goods manufactured later, the outward or out forces or which come from these manufactured goods lead to climatic changes. Cutting down the trees. As we cut down the trees, as all we know as forests and trees, they are the major captures of carbon dioxide, are the major toxic gas in the atmosphere. In the ozone atmospheric damaging gas, they are the most captive features. So if they are cut down, this will increase or cause climate changes. Producing food. This is linked with the manufacturing goods as well as generating power, because as we produce food, this will lead to fumes or toxic gases in the atmosphere, later leading to climatic changes. Power buildings, which uses electricity drawing to coal, oil, and natural gases, leading to greenhouse gases emission. Are you getting me well? Hey, hello.
I can hear it.
Yes, we do.
Okay, let's get.
I hear you perfectly.
Okay, let's get to effects of climate change. There is first high temperatures. As I say that there's toxic gases and fumes released in the atmosphere due to the causes of climate change, as I said before, they lead to high temperatures because ozone layer is damaged, which is the protective part of the Earth's surface to the toxic rays from the sun, which when the ozone layer is damaged, it later leads to high temperatures to Earth's surface. These high temperatures lead to drying up of crops, which later lead to droughts. These droughts, when they increase to a different rate, they later lead to wildfires or unnecessary fires to Earth's surfaces. As one of another climate change is like icon, there is stronger storms. The stronger storms due to a high or strong rainfalls due to climate changes, they lead to floods or like increase in the increasing of the water surfaces, oceans, seas, and lakes. Ecosystems resources like less predictable growing seasons, reduced soil health, food shortage, harm health of living beings. Which give impacts to people with disabilities, mostly with people in intellectual disabilities. The ways climate change affects people with disabilities. Let's continue. From research reference with humanity inclusion, it states that climate change amplifies marginalization experienced by persons with disabilities. Let's first of all talk about marginalization. As we know, the UN CRPD Article 11, which talks about situations of risks and humanitarian emergencies of people with disabilities. People with disabilities are marginalized due to this situation of climate change situations like floods, of like volcanic eruptions and other fires and other different disasters in general or calamities. They are marginalized because they are unaware of information. This article saves people with disabilities to be aware and supported and helped and given care during these situations. Let's continue. Disabilities, person with disabilities negatively affecting health, reducing access to healthcare services, food, water, and accessible infrastructures. Due to stigma of people with disability, they are not able to follow the evacuation instructions in the event of disaster because of lack of evacuation awarenesses, as I said before, as of amplified marginalization of persons with disabilities, and also lack of information. There are more dangers during forced disbursements because people with disabilities, they are not morally, like iconically supported during these calamities or dangers. Let's continue. There's well-being and livelihood at high risks. Climatic injustice reflects inequalities in health. This means that marginalized groups based on age, gender, or disability or doubly discriminated against and suffer disproportionately from the impact of climate on health and well-being. People with disabilities tend to be socially excluded and discriminated against, leading to socio-economic inequalities, with which they find it harder to bounce back in the event of climatic shock. People with disabilities, they are socio-economically discriminated to bounce back to these climatic shocks because they are not paid, they are not employed, they don't have other support they can get except from their support persons, like those people who are able to get it, where others are not able to get support economically, which means that they are discriminated. They can't disperse themselves from the shock of climatic changes like floods. They don't have cars, they don't have their own shelters, they don't have their own money, which is a great problem. What should be done, or our recommendations? We should first create awareness everywhere, like first of all, to people with intellectual disabilities. They should be aware, or like they should have information of these climate changes, climatic change effects, causes, and how they can like get away from these climatic shocks. anticipating impacts and preparing communities for risks. It is essential for different chambers representing groups at risk, in particular chambers, persons with disabilities, that they can make a significant contribution to the public debate and decisions and making process on climate changes at all levels, educational level, health level, and socio-economic level. Role played by persons with disability to prevent climatic change. Increase green plantation, including forests. As I said before, green plantation of forests, they are the first captive measures to prevent these climatic changes. If we plant trees as we people with disabilities, we will be playing a hard or a big role in preventing climatic changes. Save energy at home. We should use, when, for example, cooking, use electric stoves. We should turn off the bulbs when they are not in use, turn off the TVs when they are not in use. This will help save the energy and also preventing climatic change. Walk, use bicycles, or take public transportation to reduce private or personal transport means, which includes increased fumes to the atmosphere, therefore leading to climatic changes. Eat more veggies and fruits than industrial processed foods, because these industrial processed foods, they need energy to be processed, therefore releasing fumes or toxic gases to atmosphere, damaging ozone layer, and also leading to climate changes like high temperatures. Throw away less foods. This will be explained on the following point. Use 4 RSs: reduce, reuse, repair, and recycle. As we reduce throwing away food, this will help save energy or save time, energy, and power that we use to process food or to cook the food, which is one of the 4 RSs used in climatic change resolutions. Reusing. We may reuse some materials that we used before in order to save energy. You may repair them instead of buying new ones in order to reduce and minimize the energy used to produce others. We may recycle them, make other materials from the thrown away things like bottles, like metals, which may reduce other energy to process things. Change home sources of energies. We may come from stoves or coal and use electricity as it is or wind, which is the less meaning or less using or less minimizing means, or use renewable energies to minimize effects of climatic changes. As ending, we may switch to electric vehicles as one of the solutions took by the leaders internationally or nationally to reduce these climate change effects. Thank you. Thank you a lot for your kind attention. Stop.
Thank you so much, Samuela, for letting us all know about climate change. Now we are asking some questions. Are there self-defenders that have been working on climate change? Yes, we have our colleagues from Asociación Talismán and Asociación Avante 3 that are going to tell us about the project they did on climate change. So go ahead, colleagues.
Javi,
Javi,
¿me escuchas?
can you hear me?
de Avante.
I'm from Avante. Can you hear
Javi,
me?
¿puedes escucharme?
Javi,
Ahora,
can you
ahora te
hear
has
me?
quitado el
Ahora sí,
micrófono.
ahora sí.
Now, okay.
Anda.
Oh, hello.
A ver. ¿Qué son los agentes de cambio?
So who are the
Los
agents
agentes de
of
cambio es un
change?
grupo de
The
personas
agents of
con
change are a
discapacidad
group of people
intelectual
with
de distintas
intellectual
asociaciones
disabilities
de plena inclusión que en la
that
colaboración
work in
con alguna persona
collaboration
de apoyo que
with
buscan
support people
concienciar
and that
sobre el
try
cambio,
to raise
el cambio
awareness
climático
on climate
y
change
realizar las acciones de
and do different
difusión
actions
y
to
sensibilización en
disseminate
distintos
and
entornos.
raise awareness on this in different types of contexts.
Y se han realizado distintos
We have
talleres a través
done
de los equipos
different
de
workshops through
agentes de
different
cambio
teams
que se
of
empezó con
agents
entidades
of
de
change.
este año.
We
Cada
started with
grupo
different
se sale a su
entities this
entorno
year.
y
So
de
what we
comunidad
do
a
is that
realizar
each group
para poder
goes
tener
and
un
works with
mayor
their own
alcance.
context so that they can have
Y
they can do better advocacy. So do you have any questions?
¿Cómo nos afecta el cambio climático?
Okay, these are the questions that we ask ourselves.
Es
How
una
does climate change affect us?
elevación de
Well,
temperaturas pues,
it is when the
que efectúa
temperatures
por un
rise
verdadero
due
calentamiento global,
to the
que ya sean pues
climate
como
warming or global
fenómenos
warning
meteorológicos extremos,
or
que ya pueden ser lluvias
extreme
torrenciales, que como que ya cayó
climate like, for
hace escasos días, que no sé si
example,
lo sabéis.
heavy rain, because I don't know if you know, but in Spain we received very heavy rains in the last few
¿Lo
days.
sabéis eso, no?
Do you know about the
Eh,
storms that
Lo que
were in
pasó
Spain?
en Almería, en Valencia,
In
en Albacete,
Almería,
y
in
ahora está
Valencia,
pasando
in
por Barcelona.
Albacete, in different
La
regions of
lluvia
Spain,
torrencial por
in
una
the
flor en la puerta
Mediterranean
del siglo.
region, there was a tremendous, terrible storms. It was the worst in the century.
También por el calor extremo,
We
tsunamis,
also
huracanes,
extreme
Harvey,
heat,
etc.
like tsunamis, hurricanes, etc.
Incendios forestales,
Also,
aumento
fires
de nivel del
in
mar,
forests and the rise of the sea level
desertificación.
or desertification. These are all effects of climate change.
La pérdida
The loss of
biodiversidad
biodiversity
son muchos animales
is
y especies
also
vegetales
an
que no
effect,
pueden
and this
adaptarse
means that
a
many,
estos
many different
cambios que están
species,
sucediendo.
both plants
Y,
and animals,
y
can't
van
adapt to all these changes that are
perdiendo todo
going
eso.
on. So
Y esto tiene consecuencias
this has
importantes
terrible
en el
consequences
equilibrio de los ecosistemas.
on our ecosystems.
Vale, ¿y por qué es importante?
Okay, why
Porque
is
estos cambios
climate change
tienen un impacto
important?
importante en
Because
nuestra
all
vida.
these changes have a tremendous effect on our
Como por
lives.
ejemplo la
For
producción
example,
agrícola
on the
y
agricultural production or
disponibilidad de
farm
alimentos,
production and the availability of
disponibilidad del
food
agua,
or the
etc.
availability of water.
Migraciones,
Also,
refugiados climáticos por la subida del nivel del mar
many
y
people
pérdidas
are
de
climate
trabajo.
refugees.
Vamos, en otras palabras, que lo que ha pasado en Valencia.
Well, exactly what happened in Valencia, in the coast of Spain. This
A
is
veces
exactly
los
what
centros no están
happened.
preparados para estas
Sometimes
situaciones
we
de
are not
cambio de
prepared
temperaturas.
for these
Ahí
changes
puede
in the
puesto de trabajo
temperature,
más
and
expuestos a estos riesgos.
there is where we
Además
classify
de
these as
afectar
high risk,
nuestra salud física,
because it not only
afecta
affects
también
our
nuestras
physical
emociones,
health,
ansiedad,
but it
tristeza,
also
ansiedad
affects our
social,
emotions like
relaciones personales y
anxiety,
demás.
etc., or relations, our
No todas las
personal
personas pueden
relations, etc.
comunicarse
Not
su malestar
everybody
físico o
can
emocional.
communicate their
Como por ejemplo
emotional
las personas que tienen
unease. For
dificultad
example, people that have
para
difficulties
comunicarse su
to communicate.
Perdón que me perdí. Perdona. La persona
Sorry,
tiene
okay.
dificultad para
So people
relacionarse
that have
tras periodos de
difficulties
aislamiento o que les cuesta mucho volver a la vida social.
with social
Aparición de
relations
enfermedades,
really suffer from this.
afecciones de la piel, quemaduras
There's
solares,
all
alergias,
types
intolerancias
of other physical
y poco más.
consequences.
las personas que con más necesidades de apoyo necesitan ayuda
So
para gestionar
people
estos
that are
cambios
suffering this need
y
help
situaciones de
to be
riesgo,
able
como
to
hidratarse, protegerse del sol,
adapt to all these changes.
beber
For
bastante
example,
agua,
drink a lot of water, protect themselves from the
situaciones de crisis y
sun,
emergencia.
etc. There are also
¿Qué
situations
se
of
puede hacer?
crises and
Se puede
emergency. What
perder la
can we do?
accesibilidad física
Maybe we
y
lose
cognitiva
physical
en los espacios en
accessibility
una
or
situación de emergencia.
cognitive
A
accessibility
veces
to
las personas no
spaces,
tienen posibilidad
because sometimes
de
people
comunicarse
don't have the
verbalmente con
possibility to
personal de
communicate
emergencia, como como se sabe,
verbally with the emergency
en algunas
services.
personas que no
So,
tienen lenguaje.
because there are people that are not
Estos
able
casos
to
tenemos problemas de
speak
movilidad reducida
uh,
y una situación
a
crítica
verbal
que
language.
puede
In these
afectar a la
cases,
disponibilidad
this is a
de
critical
productos de
situation
apoyo,
because this
accesibilidad
can
o salud,
make them
como por ejemplo
not be
pues
able
sillas
to
de
access
ruedas,
different
ventilación
support services.
o también pues inundación en un
Or
centro,
in a case of a flood, for example, they
bueno,
can't
sea, como por ejemplo pues en tal caso que como
ask
la
for
Fiona
help.
de
Like
2021.
when there was a terrible storm here in Spain in
Vale.
2021.
¿Qué podemos hacer?
Okay, what can we
Usar
do?
suficiente energía.
Well,
Usa
Javi, Javi,
Fabi,
perdona, soy Belén de
I am
Talismán.
Belén from
¿Te
Talismán.
parece que en la pregunta 3 que le han preparado
Oh,
Esther y
why
Manuel nos
do you
cuenten un poquito?
Why don't you leave
Vale.
the question 3 for Esther and
Sí.
Manuel, because they
Gracias.
prepared them? Maybe
Nada.
we can leave that question for them. Okay, yeah, that's fine.
¿Qué podemos hacer contra el
So
cambio
what can we
climático?
do against climate change? Well,
Hay que
we
actuar,
need to act.
hay que actuar según la economía circular
We have to act with, for example,
para seguir una economía circular. Hay que conseguir las ventas de
doing
las
a
cosas.
circular
Reciclar,
economy.
separar basura,
For example, we can
reducir,
recycle, we
comprar
can
lo necesario
separate
y reutilizar,
the
usar
different things in
varias
the
veces los
trash. We
materiales.
need to reuse things, recycle.
Es importante
It
evitar
is also
el desperdicio de
important
alimentos. Otro
to
punto para conseguir una economía circular es ser
use
eficiente
energy
con el agua como
consequently,
usar.
coherently, and also
Regosización, que es un tubo
water,
con pequeños
for example.
poros que retiene el agua y
We need to
no,
use water
y
in a
evita
responsible way.
no, que evita que se vaya rápido el
So
agua.
that we need to
Y
use
luego
water
el cultivo
responsibly.
hidropónico, que
Also,
es cultivar plantas
we need
sin
to
tierra.
cultivate plants without soil, for example, hydroponic
Y ser
cultivation. This
eficiente en
is also something we
nuestra
can do.
movilidad, como
We
usar
have
el
to
transporte
also
público o
use public transport or bicycles.
También hay que seguir
Also,
medidas de prevención como
we have to use
adaptar los
prevention
horarios de
measures.
trabajo
For
atendiendo
example,
a los horarios
adapt
más
our
laborales.
work
Adaptar el
timetables
aislamiento de
or
viviendas en sitio de
schedules
trabajo
when
cuando
it's
poner
least
el aire
hot.
acondicionado, tener
Also,
las
try not
ventanas y puertas
to
encerradas.
when you use
Utilizar
air
soluciones
conditioning,
que nos da
you
la
need to
naturaleza
close
como
the doors,
criar
for
cubiertas
example, and the
vegetales.
winters and
Nosotros
the
este
windows.
año
For example,
los
here,
restos de poda los estamos
this year,
echando a la huerta
what we
para
do is
no
we
quemarlo.
try and
Y hasta
reuse
aquí.
every kind of
Gracias.
Muchas gracias.
vegetable thing we
Interesante todo
can.
lo que
Okay,
nos
thank you.
contaron. Enhorabuena
Everything
por
you
el
said was
trabajo
really, really
maravilloso.
interesting. Congratulations for that great work
En
you
noviembre,
have
Plena
been doing.
Inclusión organiza
In November, Plena inclusión
organiza en Barcelona un
is
congreso
going
de
to.
innovación.
Mónica,
¿Te parece si antes de pasar a
why
esa parte
don't
vemos si alguien
we
tiene alguna
see if
pregunta?
people have
Ah,
questions
vale.
before going ahead?
Vale,
Sí.
sí. ¿Alguien tiene
Yes,
alguna pregunta?
great idea.
que
Does
les
anybody have any question
¿O algún comentario?
or a
algún comentario
comment
que hayan hecho sobre la presentación?
on the presentations, on what was
Mira, Gary.
said?
Mira.
Maybe. Okay,
Hay
Gary.
puedo.
Yes.
pegar.
Can you hear
Yes.
me?
Can
Sí.
Right. There will be people who won't be able to use bicycles because of their disability. So public transport, but it's got to be all electric, and cars need to be electric as well. And a lot of the things we're asking to happen and to change a lot of the things cost money, lots of money. We're talking about billions of pounds to change things and change attitudes. And so think those things need to be sorted, and if you're going to turn things around. So when energy from wave machines and wind turbines, that's what we got a lot in around our coast and on our land. And we need to adjust all that, and also having what we call prefabricated homes that will save on energy. So we need to adapt, and I think all governments need to adapt these.
Muchas gracias, Gary. Samuela.
Thank you. I thank you all for the compliment you added on what I presented. I'm very impressed. Moreover, what I can add on is that we as people with disability, we should feel like confident of ourselves in changing and in changing all the effects of climatic changes globally or nationally. Moreover, in Rwanda last Saturday, what we did, we planted tree. It was an International Day of Planting Trees, where we as disability inclusion in Rwanda, we planted trees. Thank you.
Muchas gracias, Samuela. Recuerden, por si no pueden ver, debajo de
Thank
en la
you,
parte de
Samuela.
abajo
In case you
hay un
can't see
simbolito redondo que es el de la
at
traducción,
the
¿vale?
bottom
Si
part of
ustedes
your
le
screen,
pincháis
there's a small icon with
al simbolito,
like a kind of
aparece
globe
español,
icon, which is
francés,
the symbol of
portugués, tenemos
interpretation.
varios idiomas, ¿vale?
There, you can choose the language in which you want to listen the
Luis.
session into. Luis?
Bueno, yo creo
Okay.
que eso es bueno para reportar
Well,
esta,
I
compartir
think
la información de lo que tengan.
sharing
Hay
information is
una
really,
página
really
en
good.
internet y
There
también
is
algo que también pueden
a
escribir en las redes
web
sociales
in
y
the
compartir desde su
internet
página web con los del
and
grupo
social media that you can
con los del grupo
share
que sea
with
para que
all
compartan
the
información
groups
sobre el
so that
trabajo
we
en el
can
medio ambiente
share
para
the
personas con
work
discapacidad, algo que
that
también estamos
people with disabilities do
viendo
on
también
climate change.
algo que también estamos viendo
This is
podría ser
something
útil para el equipo de Empower Latinoamérica
that
y para
we
los
see that it could be
opositores
useful
aquí
for
a nivel local, que
Empower
también lo
in Latin
requerimos en
America and also
este
for
tema.
self-advocates here locally. So any webs or any
Muchas gracias, Luis.
social media that you can share
Tenemos
be
una
very
pregunta
useful.
para los compañeros que
We have
nos
also
estuvieron
a
contando
question
recién.
for
No sé
the
si Belén, Javi, podéis
Spanish
responderla. Y
groups,
es un
Belén,
poco sobre qué
Javi,
fue lo que los
and it
inspiró para
is what
trabajar sobre el tema del
inspired
cambio
you to
climático.
work on climate change?
Javi, ¿respondes tú primero y
Javi,
luego voy
do
yo?
you want to
O al
answer?
revés, como quieras.
Or should we do it?
A mí me da igual.
I don't mind.
Venga.
Okay, so go ahead.
Vale, ¿qué es lo
Well,
que...?
what was the question again?
Repite, por favor,
Can you
la
repeat the
pregunta.
question, please?
Sí, ¿qué te ha
Yes.
inspirado
So,
para
what
empezar a
got
trabajar en el cambio
your
climático?
group
Pues,
interested on
¿qué ha
climate change? What
pasado, qué
inspired
has
you? What
visto, qué has
happened? What have you
escuchado para
seen? What
decir, pues mira, es
have you
importante y hay que
listened
trabajar en todo lo que es el cambio
before
climático?
that made you say, huh,
Pues
climate change is important, we
empecé
have to work on
a
that?
estudiar
Well, in fact, I
lo
started
relativo de de temas
studying
sociales de cosas del planeta,
the
del
things
las
about the
cosas que te hace el tema del
planet
planeta
and the
me llamó
consequences of
bastante la
climate
atención
change on
pues,
the
porque me
planet.
gusta que
And it
trabajar de ese
called my
tema,
attention, this thing
de la
called my
forma que tiene el
attention,
mundo, de,
because I
de
like
qué
to
lo
know
podemos
about the
intentar arreglar,
problems
de
we
cómo
have in the
poder ponerlo
world, how
y
we
vayamos
can solve
más
problems, how
de lo que
can
está
we
yendo mal rápido el
stop
planeta.
things so that it doesn't get worse.
Y por eso me llamó la
So
atención
this is why
digo,
this
digo,
climate change called my attention, and I said
no
I
puedo
have to
dejar
research on that.
escapar la oportunidad
I
porque
have to take this
ese momento
opportunity and learn about this because it is so important at this moment to know about climate change.
y poco más.
And not much more.
Muchas gracias, Javi.
Okay, thank
Belén,
you,
¿querías decir
Javi.
algo?
Belen, do you want to
Es que
say something
con
also?
Esther y con Manuel
Well,
y
with
con
Esther,
otros compañeros
Manuel, and with some
trabajamos
other
en un
colleagues,
vivero
we
de
work
un pueblo de Madrid,
in a
en
small
San Martín de
village
Valdeiglesias.
in San Martín
Y
de
al trabajar la
Valdeiglesias
tierra
in a kind of a
y
planned
pues estamos muy
breeding
concienciados
ground. And so we
con usar
are
bien,
very
utilizar
aware
bien
of how
los
we
recursos,
have
el
to
agua,
use
el suelo,
correctly the different
y estamos muy
resources,
concienciados
the
con el
water,
cambio climático.
the soil, and we are very, very much working on climate change
Muchas
and,
gracias.
and
Y
raising
también nos
awareness on
preguntan
climate change.
qué
Thank
cambios
you.
han visto
We
en la
also
sociedad o
were asked
qué
what
adelantos han visto
changes or
desde
what
que están
improvements
trabajando
have you
este tema.
seen in your community or in society since you started working
¿Qué
on this?
avances?
So what improvements have you seen in your community?
Nosotros, por
Well,
trabajar en agricultura, vemos
due to the
muchísimos
fact that we work
avances
in
técnicas
agriculture,
agrícolas
we see
y
that
en
there
la
are many, many
utilización
different
junto a la
progresses in different
agricultura de
agricultural
energías
techniques.
sostenibles
So we
o
use, for
energías
example,
renovables.
sustainable or
Esto
renewable
nosotros lo
energy.
vemos
This we have
que ahora
seen.
está siendo
This
muy
is
utilizado
important
en
now
nuestro sector
in our
y vemos
sector.
también a la
And
gente
for
más
example, we have
concienciada,
also realized that
más
people
sensibilizada,
are
porque
more
quizás lo
aware of
estamos
climate change.
sintiendo ya.
Maybe
Como
because
decía
we are
Javi,
already
con la
feeling the
Dana que
effects
hemos
of
tenido
climate
ahora en
change. As
Valencia, lo
Javi
vemos,
said,
vemos
in
que el
Spain there
clima
were
está
these
cambiando y lo
massive
estamos
rains and
sufriendo.
storms, and we see this is real. We are suffering the effects of climate change,
Muchísimas
so we
gracias.
know this is something real. Thank you so much.
Si quieres, Mónica,
Monica,
¿quieres que pasemos a las
do you want
preguntas
to
de
continue
debate, que es lo que sigue ahora?
with the debate questions? Yes.
Vale.
Okay.
Vale.
Okay, so
Explico un poco, Natalia, lo del congreso en
shall I
Barcelona que
Eso lo
the
dejamos, si quieres, eso lo dejamos para el
Barcelona?
final.
Well,
dejamos para el
maybe we'll
final.
leave that till
Sí.
the end and we'll
¿Te
go ahead
parece?
with questions.
Y pasamos ahora a las
What do you
preguntas.
think?
Vale. ¿Qué
Okay,
os parece
great.
si ahora pasamos a
So,
las preguntas que os
what do you
enviamos? Pues
think?
las recordamos.
Should we answer the
Uno,
questions
¿te has
that we
causado el
sent?
cambio
We'll
climático?
remind them. First of all, have you been impacted
Dos,
by
¿por qué el
climate
cambio
change
climático
or
es
affected by
importante para
climate
las
change?
personas con
Why is
discapacidad
climate change
intelectual?
important for people
Tres, ¿qué
with
podemos
intellectual
hacer como
disabilities?
autogestores para trabajar
3.
en el
What
cambio
can we do as
climático?
self-advocates to work on climate change?
Os la vuelvo a
Should
responder.
I
¿Te ha
read them
impactado el
again?
cambio
Okay.
climático?
Have you been impacted
¿Por qué
by
el cambio
climate
climático es
change?
importante para las
Why
personas
is
con
climate
discapacidad
change
intelectual?
important for people with
¿Qué podemos
intellectual
hacer como
disabilities?
autogestores para
What
trabajar
can
en
we
el cambio
do as
climático?
self-advocates to work on climate change?
Pues mira, Mónica, tenemos algunas
Okay,
palabras.
Monica.
Mira, Sherry, ¿quieres contarnos?
Sherry wants to speak and tell us all about it. So go ahead, Sherry, please.
Thank you so much. Question 1. Have you been impacted by climate change? Yes. Our water and electricity are much more expensive than it was. We also had load shedding for a long time, which means our water and electricity was cut off and shared between different households every day. It is hotter and drier than ever before in Bloemfontein, where I live. Question 2.
Yeah, I think that you can just answer question 1 and then other people can answer it.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Luis Gabriel, tienes la palabra.
La primera pregunta es aquí.
So the first
La primera
question
cambio climático.
is,
En cierta medida sí, porque
yes,
usualmente
I have
estamos aquí en la
been
población. No,
impacted by
aquí
climate
se está
change
viviendo lo que es el fenómeno de
because
la niña,
we
porque
are
hemos por
living
esto,
here
gracias
the
a eso hemos
Niña
sufrido
phenomenon,
lo
and we
de
have
fenómeno de la
suffered
niña y el fenómeno del niño.
the
Así
Niña
que hay
and the
largos
Niño
periodos de que hacen
phenomenon.
sol y otros que
So
hacen
there's
como pasan
periods
días
in
en que
we
no
have
llueve y
sun, and
necesitamos
then
de la
there's
lluvia porque aquí en
many
Bogotá
days in
el
which
caso
we
del
have no
asunto es
rain,
que
and we need rain
necesitamos del
because
agua
here in
y hay
Bogota we need
un
water,
razonamiento de agua que
and
necesitamos y estamos en periodo de
we are
ahorrar
in
agua
a
y nos
period
alternan
now
cada
in which
9 o
we have to
10 días
save
en
water all the
cerrar el
time,
servicio de agua para poder
and
ahorrarla y también hacer un práctico uso
we
de
have
ella,
to ration
reutilizarla
water
y
and
cerrar el grifo. Estamos
reuse
haciendo
it
fuerte campaña en ello
because there's not
para
enough
evitar
water.
el
We are doing
razonamiento y
campaigns
el
on
uso
this,
correcto del agua para
and
y
we're
esperando
doing
que llueva
campaigns
poquito por lo que
about
también
on
llueve
the
a
correct use of
cántaros y
water.
esperemos que
We
la
are
lluvia es lo que
hoping
nos
the rain
ayude
to
a
come, and
y,
so that
y la
this
instrucción
rain
de la gente.
helps us.
Pues muy bien. ¿Alguna pregunta más
Any other question
sobre el cambio climático?
on climate change?
No sé si alguien más quiere
I don't
responder las
know if somebody
preguntas.
else wants to
Os la recordamos un
answer
momento, ¿vale?
the questions. We'll
Ujú.
remind them again.
¿Qué creen? ¿Por qué creen que es importante
Why do
para
you
las personas
think
con
it is
discapacidad el cambio
important for
climático?
people with intellectual disabilities
Mira, tenemos la palabra de
climate
Samuela
change?
pedida.
Samuela wants to speak. Go
Adelante,
ahead.
Samuela.
Go ahead. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Like why people with intellectual disability we have to learn about climatic change. It is because we people with intellectual disability, we are the vulnerable ones because we are the part of the population, the worst population. Therefore, as climate change being as a big thing or a big factor that the big problem to our earth or to our space. So we have to play a big part to save or to prevent it. That's what I think. Thank you.
Muchas gracias, Samuela. ¿Alguien más quiere
Thank you
contarnos
so much,
algo
Samuela.
más
Does anybody
sobre cambio
else want
climático?
to
Pues
tell
porque
us
es
something
importante.
about
Caroline.
climate change? Say why it's important. Caroline, go ahead.
Yes, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Yeah, I'm Corinne, an advocate from Uganda. Yeah, climate change is important to intellectual disability persons because most cases, persons with intellectual disability are not are not taken care of, like they're not considered to be vulnerable within their countries. So persons with intellectual disabilities have to learn more about climate change and to how to prevent to be affected by it in a negative way. Okay, they have to learn to welcome it in a positive way and to know how to be served, to be how to be in a safe area when it happens. So climate change is important to persons with disabilities. Thank you.
Muchas gracias, Caroline. Pues mira, hay una pregunta en el chat, Mónica, que dice que si conocemos o alguien de los que estamos aquí conocemos si hay algún material en
There's
lectura
a
fácil sobre
question in
cambio
the chat
climático.
that says, does anybody here know any material that is on easy read on climate
¿Alguien
change?
conoce algún
So does
material en lectura
anybody
fácil o
here know
accesible que hable
about
sobre
any
estos
type of
temas?
material that is accessible on these topics, that is on easy read or that is accessible?
¿No?
No?
Pues igual, mira, Eilish nos dice que
Eilish
tienen ahí
says that they have some
algunos
resources
recursos que
collected
han
on easy
recolectado
read.
en lectura fácil, que la mayoría
but
están en
that
inglés.
they are
Pero
mostly
bueno,
in English.
luego, a través de un
But
correo, podemos compartir
later
más
on,
materiales.
maybe we can share
Igual,
them by
una de
email.
las tareas que nos queda a partir de esta reunión
Maybe a task
es
that
traducirlos al español
we
o
have
comenzar a
is to
trabajar
translate them
algunos
into
documentos, ¿no? que
Spanish
sean
or
accesibles para que
other
podamos
languages,
trabajar sobre
or
este
to
tema
work on
también.
different resources that are accessible on
¿Quieres,
these topics.
Mónica, que pasemos a la última
Monica,
pregunta?
should we go ahead and ask the last question?
La última pregunta.
Well,
o
the
bueno,
last
también, ¿qué
question
podemos hacer como
is,
autogestores
what
para
can we
trabajar en el
do
cambio
as
climático?
self-advocates to work on climate change?
Pues hemos escuchado ya algunas
We
cuestiones sobre
have
qué podemos
heard
hacer. Sherry, ¿qué
some
quieres contarnos?
ideas. Sherry, what do you want to tell us?
Okay, question 3. Number 1. We must try to use renewable energy, like solar energy. In South Africa, we have a lot of sun. Number 2. We must use energy efficient appliances, like an air fryer and microwave oven. Number 3. We must help reduce water waste in the following ways. Fix dripping taps. We must try to use all the water that comes from our taps by putting a bucket to catch the first cold water in the shower. This water I use in the toilet again. Number 4. Never waste food. Only buy food that you will eat, not more. Number 5. Use less electricity by using low energy bulbs and putting off any appliance that you are not using. Thank you.
Muchas gracias, Sherry.
Thank
Mira,
you,
Mónica,
Sherry. Thank you
tiene
so
Marc la mano
much.
levantada. ¿Quieres que le
Mark
demos paso?
has also put his
Adelante,
hand
Marc.
up, so go ahead, Mark, please.
Yeah, thank you very much. On the question, I think as advocates, after understanding what climate change is and what brings climate change, we need to be self-advocates that we can advocate on climate change. We know we live in different countries with different disasters, like the issue of COVID, things like those. We need to understand what kind of support do we need as self-advocates. By doing so, we will know that if we face this challenge through climate change, we can advocate in this way. Also, how we can get support from government or people around us who can provide help from the challenges that have come through climate change. Thank you.
Muchas gracias, Marc.
Thank you
Pues
so much,
Mónica,
Mark.
¿qué te parece
So,
si pasamos a lo que sigue luego
Monica,
de las
should
preguntas?
we go ahead? Should we continue?
Sí.
Yes.
En noviembre, Plena
Well,
Inclusión
just
organiza en
wanted to let
Barcelona
you
un
know
congreso
that
de
in
innovación.
November, Plena inclusión
Innovación
is
es un cambio que
organizing
incluye derivades en
an
algo.
innovation
Por
conference
ejemplo,
in Barcelona.
el teléfono móvil fue una
Innovation is a
innovación
change
porque
that
antes solo
includes some
existían
kind
los
of novelty.
teléfonos
For
fijos.
example, the
Las
mobile phone was
reuniones que hacemos
an
en Plena
innovation because
Internacional
before we
es
only
algo
had
innovador porque no
land
existen
phones,
muchos
landlines.
grupos
The
donde
meetings that
personas
we do in Plena
autogestoras
Inclusión
de
are also
diferentes partes
innovative
del
because
mundo
there are
se
not many
juntan para
groups
hablar
where
y trabajar sobre
self-advocates from
temas que
different
son
parts of the
importantes
world
para
get
ellos.
together to
Por
talk
eso,
and work
el
on
miércoles
issues that are
27 de
important to them.
noviembre, como
This is
parte del
why July on Wednesday, 27th of November. As part of this innovation conference, we are going to have a workshop where Plena International will have a space to talk about projects done by self-advocates that we think are innovative. This means that we will not have our monthly meeting on Thursday, 28th of November, but we'll meet instead on Wednesday, 27th. So to talk about all these innovative projects. Do you know or have done a project that you consider innovative? Do you want to talk
¿Conocéis
about it at the
o
conference?
algún proyecto que
Yeah,
esté
do
llevando
you
vuestra
know some kind of
organización
project that your
o algún
organization
proyecto que
is
conozcan que haya
doing, or
personas
any
con
project
discapacidad que
at
lo
all in
lideren,
which there
que
are
sea
people
algo
with
nuevo, que sea
disabilities that are
algo
leading?
que
Something that is
consideremos
new,
que
something that we
antes no
consider
se
that
trabajaba. No sé
we
si
didn't
conocen
work on
alguno, si quieren
before.
contarnos
I
alguno
don't
y
know if
si
you
no, podéis
know
pensarlo y
these
nos lo
type of
envían por
projects.
correo,
Maybe
¿vale?
you can think about it and send it to us by email.
¿A dónde te lo podemos enviar? ¿A
Where
qué
can we
correo?
send it to you? At which
Ahora lo pongo en el
email?
chat,
I
¿vale?
will put it in the chat.
Mira, Gary quiere contarnos
Look,
algo.
Gary wants to tell us something.
Gary, adelante.
Gary, go ahead, please.
Yes. People with learning disabilities have been working on since 2019 on Good Lives. It's what they call a booklet of chapters, and it's all to do what people with a learning disability could want to lead a good life. And we've been doing that in England, and a lot of people with learning disabilities have been adding all the different chapters since 2019, just before the pandemic started. And we're still continuing to add more information to those chapters. And we're talking about housing, good support, love to be loved, and on employment, and always forget the other bits. And so, and we're now working on transport and health. So, and we keep on adding more and more of this because we want the politicians to take on board what the good lives is all about, and we want it to be adapted into political life. So we are adding that all the time, and we're trying to add people with profound learning disabilities into those chapters, and people from minority ethnic groups. So we're continuing adding stuff to what we've already got, and we want to, as I say, politicians to actually back the idea of good lives. And it's thanks for all the people with learning disabilities who have actually put into this hard work.
Muchas gracias, Gary. ¿Y
Thank you
podrías
so much, Gary. Could
compartirnos
you share with us
este proyecto que
this
tenéis por
project
correo?
by
Mira, por
email?
el chat está mi
Maybe
dirección de
in the
correo,
chat I
¿vale?
left my email.
Entonces, si puedes
So
enviarnos
maybe
algún
if you can
material para
send
que nosotros
us
luego
some
podamos
resources
hablar
there, some
contigo, ¿te parece
materials, so
bien?
that we can talk about this with you. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Genial, muchas gracias.
Thank you, that's wonderful.
No sé si alguien más quiere
Does
contarnos
anybody else
algún
want
proyecto
to
que consideren algo
tell us about
nuevo
some
en el que antes
projects
no se
that
trabajaba?
you think is innovative or that we didn't work on before?
Aquí también estamos
Well,
haciendo, creo que lo
here
mismo en las campañas, creo que desde
we are
hasta
doing
10
also some
y también
campaigns
a nivel regional.
at a regional level.
¿Un proyecto sobre qué, Luis?
A project on what, Luis?
No proyecto,
It's not a
estamos haciendo
project,
campañas
it's
para
a campaign.
también
we are doing
ayudar al
different
medio ambiente,
campaigns on how
como
to
reciclajes y también
do things like
manejo del agua y
recycling or how
razonamiento.
to ration water and
Muy
things like
bien.
that.
Muchas
Okay.
gracias.
Thank you, Luis.
¿Alguien más quiere contarnos
Does
algo?
anybody else want to tell us something?
Pues si quieres, Mónica,
Well,
seguimos con lo
okay,
que
Monica, go ahead.
habíamos hablado.
Vale.
Okay.
Muchas gracias a todos
So
por
thank
participaros.
you everyone for
Antes de irnos,
participating
queremos
today.
contarles un cambio para la
Before
fecha
we
del mes de
leave,
noviembre.
we want to let you know about a small
Escribe un
change.
correo a Natalia. Os dejamos
Natalia,
su correo en el
a
chat,
change
dándole
in
tu
the
para que
November
podáis
date.
participar. De todas formas, en unos días vamos a enviar un
In a
correo
few
con toda la
days, we will
información.
send you an
Ahora
email
sí,
with all
muchas
the
gracias por
information.
participar.
So,
Por último,
okay,
recordad
thank
que
you
Marc os
so much
enviará
for
información sobre el
participating. And
evento de
finally,
noviembre y la
remember that
grabación de esta
Mark will
reunión.
send you the
Gracias.
information about the November event and the recording of this
El cambio
event.
de la reunión es,
Thank you very much.
hemos
And
dicho el
okay,
27,
we said
27
that
va a ser por la
finally
tarde y va a
we
ser
will meet
online
on the
para
27th
contar estos proyectos
online
innovadores.
to speak about all these
¿Y qué
innovative
horario?
projects.
A decir verdad.
What
Va a ser
would be the
próxima reunión
time?
27 de noviembre.
27 de noviembre, que será a las 5,
It
como
would
siempre.
be at the
Una
Ahora,
same as
cinco.
the
El horario
same
todavía
time as
tenemos que
always.
confirmarlo,
Well,
¿vale?
in fact, we have to
Porque
confirm
lo tenemos
the
que organizar en el
time. We
lugar
have to
donde haremos el taller,
organize this in the place
pero
where we
bueno,
will
lo
hold the
importante es que
workshop,
como
so
parte de este
we
congreso
don't know
vamos a
this yet.
hablar
But
de
what is
este tipo de
important
proyectos,
that
¿no? De algo
in
que
this
son nuevos, de
conference
lo que
we're
nos
going to
gustaría
speak about these
trabajar
projects that
y
are
lo que nosotros
innovative
llamamos innovadores, ¿no?
and
Entonces,
that we are
si vosotros
the projects
conocéis
that we are working on.
proyectos en
So if
vuestras
you know
organizaciones
other
que,
projects that your
que
organization
crean que son
is
innovadores, que crean que trabajan sobre
doing
algo
that
nuevo,
you
sobre lo que
think that
antes
are
no se trabajaba,
innovative, that work
pues
on
nos envían un
something
correo
that
y
is
vamos a
new,
tener, en vez de
please
la
send us
reunión
an
el día
email.
jueves, la vamos a
So
tener el día
instead of
miércoles por la
having the
tarde. Luego
meeting
vamos a
on
confirmar bien el
Thursday, we
horario,
will
¿vale?
have the
Marc
meeting on
enviará
Wednesday. But
toda la
Mark
información
will
por
send
correo.
you all the
Entonces,
information by email.
aquellas personas, por
So
ejemplo, los
those of
compañeros
you, for
que se han unido
example,
hoy, que nos han
new
contado,
people
pues
today,
Belén,
people
Javi,
that
nosotros
came
también
today,
contarles que
Belén,
tenemos
Javi,
un
we want
correo
to
en donde
let
enviamos
you
toda la
know
información
also
de las
that we have
reuniones
an
de todos
email
los
in which
meses.
we send all the
Entonces, si queréis
information
apuntaros, pues sin problema
of
me enviáis un correo y
in
que
which
llegue
we
la
share
información de las
all the
reuniones, ¿vale?
information on the meetings every month.
Y pues
So
nada, entonces
also if you
enviaremos la
want to
información de la
register,
reunión
you're
del mes que
welcome.
viene, ¿vale?
We
Pero será
will
el día
send you
miércoles
all the
en vez del
information
día
about the
jueves. Y
November
será por la
call, but it
tarde,
will
horario de
be
España, ¿vale?
on
O
Wednesday
más o menos intentaremos
27th.
que sea el
We
mismo
will
horario que se
try
hacen las
to
reuniones
do it at
para
the
que
same
podamos estar
time as
al
these
mismo tiempo,
calls
¿vale?
are so that it doesn't change so much, but we'll let you know by email. Is that
Pues si nadie
okay?
tiene ninguna
If
pregunta,
nobody else has any questions,
nos vemos entonces el mes
maybe
que
we
viene.
see you next
Muchísimas
month.
gracias por todo.
Thank you so much for everything.
El miércoles.
Muchas
And
gracias.
hope you're all
Feliz tarde
well.
allá en
Take
España.
care.
Ya. Feliz Halloween.
And happy
Hasta luego,
Feliz
Halloween.
días.
igualmente, gracias.
Thank you so much.
Feliz Halloween.
Feliz Halloween. Ok, gracias.